Hi, my name is Lee. Welcome to Alpha Web Design. Thank you for tuning in. In this video, I want to show you how you can deploy your Laravel PHP app completely for free to Heroku. And this is actually the most important part about your Shopify app development, because until now you just developed your app locally, but now you will put it on a public server. And with that, you will make the most important part about submitting your app to Shopify. So I hope you really like this video. I hope you find it helpful. If you do, then please click the like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, so before we start, I want to point your attention to this step-by-step guide that I created here, and you can read along on my website, l4webdesign.de. The link will be in the description below. And yeah, if you just want to copy all of the commands that I use in this tutorial, then you can just go here, click on copy, and just paste them into your files. And yeah, you can also read along. I have some screenshots attached, and yeah, if you just rather want to read it. Before we start this video, we have some prerequisites. You should have a Heroku account. So if you go here to the Heroku sign up page, you have to create your account, and you should also have the Heroku CLI installed. There's an installation guide on how to install the Heroku CLI, and for Mac and Windows and Ubuntu as well. So you should have that. Of course, you should have a Laravel app already created, and you should also have a Git repo initialized within your app. You don't have to push it to GitHub necessarily, but you just have to have a Git repo initialized. And yeah, so that will be the step-by-step guide that I will follow along. And without further ado, let's go. All right, so I have my VS Code opened up right here, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a proc file. In order to do that, I will have to type in touch and say proc file. As you can see, it has created a proc file right there, and a proc file is just a configuration file for Heroku, and it will tell Heroku what to do as soon as you deploy your app. So for example, it will tell Heroku to use an nginx, and you can also give some worker instructions. So I want to say PHP artisan queue listen. That will be important for your Laravel app to create those script tags. Maybe you have seen my video on how to create script tags for your Shopify app, and you will need this command right here, PHP artisan queue listen, and that will just tell Heroku to run this command as soon as the application is deployed. The second step that we want to do is we want to create an nginx config file, since we are using nginx. So I want to say touch nginx app.conf, also at the root directory of my app. And as you can see, it has created a config file. Now let me copy everything over here. And yeah, that is also necessary for nginx to have the right configuration. So now we have those two config files set up. Now we can log in to Heroku on the CLI. And in order to do that, we can just type in Heroku login. And as soon as you type in Heroku login, then you will be redirected to this website right here. And it will say login to Heroku CLI. Just click login, give your credentials, and if you have typed in your credentials and everything is correct, then you will see that you're logged in. So the next step that you want to do is you want to create your Heroku application. In order to do that, you just have to type in Heroku create, and I'm gonna just call my app L4 Shopify app. You can of course name it whatever you want, and you can see that now it has created an app for you. And if you go to your Heroku dashboard now, then you will see that the app is also created on the Heroku dashboard. So coming in here, I went to dashboard.heroku.com, and here I can see all of the apps that I have created. I have created 2 example apps before, but this is the one that I have just created over my CLI, so everything worked perfectly. Okay, so back at my terminal here, I can say git remote -v, and I can take a look here if there's also a Git repository set up at Heroku directly. So now I can see that I have 2 repositories right here, and that will be very important for further steps, because on one hand I have my GitHub repo right here, which is my origin repo. And if you're familiar with Git, every time you say git push, it automatically pushes to your origin repo. But here you now have a second repo, which is the Heroku repo. And you will have to make sure that every time you push your changes, you push your changes to Heroku and not to your origin repo. That will be for the first step. Later on, you can configure automatic deployments and so on. So you don't have to think about that anymore. But for now, we just want to push to our Heroku repo. All right, so just keep that in mind. But for now, everything worked fine. So let's push our code that we have edited here. So we will push our proc file and our nginx configuration file. In order to do that, we will say git add. We will say git commit, give it a commit message, and just say deployment tutorial. All right, and now you want to say git push, but you want to push it to Heroku master. All right. And there you can see that Heroku will automatically start a building process for your app. And you can see that it worked right there. Now we'll just install all of your packages, and now your app is deployed to Heroku. All right, so let's check it out, what we have so far. I'm here at my dashboard again. Now I click on L4 Shopify app. I can see that it has just deployed just now. And I want to see my app right now. So I click on open app, and I get a 500 server error. So that's good and bad news as well. So the good news is that the deployment worked. We now have our Laravel app deployed to a public server, but the bad news is we get this 500 error. And now let's check out why this error occurred. So we can take a look at this internal server error, and the reason that we will only get this side and not any information about the bugs is that we do not have our app debug environment variable set to true. So let's do that right now. We will have to set our environment variables And we can do that if we go here to settings and say reveal config vars. So now I can set a key, and the key will be app debug, and let us set that to true. So now we have added our first config variable. We have set that to true. And if I go over to my server error, I should now see why this error occurred. So let's hit refresh. And there I can see that I have no application encryption key specified. So the problem is that I do not only have my encryption key not specified, the problem is that I don't have any of my config vars uploaded here. So I have a bunch of environment variables in my project, but I don't have any of them here. So there are two methods of adding those config variables here to Heroku. Version 1, I just showed you. You can just enter all of the data here, or another version would be to do that on the command line, and I can show you how that is done as well. So for example, I just could go here and say Heroku config add, then say env config and the value. Of course, you would have to enter your environment configuration and the value here. And so I could go here to my environment, to my .env file, and I could go ahead and say copy app name, say for Shopify app, and now you can see that it has added this environment variable right here. And if I go back to Heroku, I should also see it there. If I refresh, then you can see that it has added this configuration file here as well, along with the value. So that could be a little bit time consuming. If you want to work some Vim magic, you could also do that. Okay, so if you want to use Vim in order to make everything a little bit faster, you would have to type in vim.env. Then you want to press escape to enter command mode. Then you want to press Control V to enter visual block. Now you want to mark all of those positions that you want to enter your command. Then you want to say Shift I in order to insert the command. Then you want to say Heroku config.add, give it a space, and now you press escape. And as you can see, now you have a bunch of commands that you can just copy right here. Command C. Now I don't want to save this, so I'm just gonna say :Q exclamation. Now I'm back, and now I can just paste all of those commands that I just copied and say enter. Okay, so we got all of that set up. Now we can go back to our dashboard and take a look. Let me refresh. And there you can see a whole bunch of config variables. There's a lot of them that we don't need, but we can just X that out, and just, if we don't need it, if for example we don't use AWS, that's okay, we can just delete it here. But we saved a whole lot of time just entering it and copy and pasting it. All right, so yeah, the next thing that we want to do is we want to check out how to set up our database. So that's the next part. In order to set up the database, I will have to go back to set up the database, I have to click on resources and add a database to my app. Now I have those add-ons here, and any database is just basically an add-on. And as you can see, I can type in or I can choose from any database. I have some MySQL databases here. I can also choose Maria database, whatever you like. I personally like Postgres because it has the most storage. I think it has 1 GB of storage, and all of the other databases, they have less, and you can have a maximum of 10,000 inserts, I believe, and you can also read it as well. But yeah, that's just my favorite, and it works like MySQL as well. So let's just install Heroku Postgres. Now you can choose from a different tier. Of course, we do not need any of those down there. We are just hobby devs, so we choose the free edition and submit the order form. Now it has added this add-on, so we now have our database attached to our app, and now we need the database credentials. We have to set those up. Okay, so I'm now back at my terminal here in VS Code, and in order to get the credentials of my database that I have just set up, I just have to type in Heroku PG for Postgres credentials and say URL. Now you can see here that I have my connection information. I have my database name, the host, the user, password, and my connection URL. All right, and basically now I just have to copy and paste those values over to my config variables over at Heroku. Now I will do that right quick, and I'll get back to you when I have all of that set up. All right, so I now have everything set up here, and I can go over to my application and check if I will get a new error message. So as we can see here, now the error message has changed. So it says undefined table. This means that it could already connect to my database, which is good, but now I have an undefined table, so users does not exist. That is because I haven't done a DB migrate yet. So I will go ahead and migrate and seed my database right now. In order to do that, I'm back at my terminal here, and I can just run a Heroku command, or there are two ways of doing this, and I will show you both. So the first way of migrating your database is just say Heroku run, and then you can run any command on the bash or on the terminal, and I will just say Heroku run PHP artisan migrate and give it the seed flag. And as you can see, it has migrated all of my tables that I needed, and also the database seeding completed successfully. Now that is the first version. The second version you can do is you can go into the bash of your deployed app on your public server, and that is if you go to Heroku run bash a and say so now it's running the bash off my app, and you can see here that I'm now logged in to my app right there. And now I could say, So first of all, I could list all of my directories. So I can see here that I have all of my deployed directories here, but I don't want to do that. I just want to say PHP artisan migrate fresh and say seed as well. And there you can see that it also has worked this way. So you can do it however you want, and you can exit this by typing in exit. And now I'm back at the terminal of my local app right here. All right, so that has worked as well. And now it's time to create the public app at the Shopify dashboard. If you don't know how to do that, then I will link a video right here. That's a separate video. I have already set that up. So here I am at the app setup of my Shopify app, and I have this API key here and my API secret key right there. And I will copy those values and paste them into my configuration files over at Heroku, because that is needed as well. So let me just hop over here. Paste that in. Paste that in. Then I go back over to my Shopify app, click on app setup. In here, I have to type in my app URL. So the app URL from Heroku will always be the name of your app .herokuapp.com. So make sure you type that in here at app URL. Make sure you don't forget the HTTPS, because if you just type in HTTP, that will give you an authentication error. That happened to me once, and that's kind of annoying. It's just to find out that the S was missing. So make sure you type that in. Then you want to make sure you type in your redirection URL. So type in the name. You can just copy this from here and just add authenticate down there. And then you just want to save your changes. I've already set that up, so my changes are saved. And then we can check out if everything worked. And if everything worked, then I can just install my app on my Shopify development store. So we can come here to the dashboard of our app, and where it says test your app, go to select store and just choose development store. And of course you get an error. Let me just check why I got that error. And as you can see, it worked, and I now have my app installed right here. Let me just show you that one error where that came from. If I go back to my config vars, you have to make sure that your app URL right here is the app URL of your current app. So if you just copy and paste all of your environment variables the way that I showed you before, then you will have the app URL of your local app, but you have to make sure that you have the app URL of your public app right there. All right, so that's what caused the error before. But now, as you can see, this this deployed version is right here, and you can also check it in the iframe. Right here, you can see that it comes from L4 Shopify app.herokuapp.com, which is the deployed version of our app. I mean, it doesn't look good That's for certain, but at least it worked. I hope I could show you a quick way to deploy your app, which is the most important part of your app, because if you have worked on your app for so long, then you also want to deploy it, of course. Yeah, so yeah, I hope I could show you something. I hope you could learn something. And if you liked the video, if it was helpful, then please click the like and subscribe. It will help me grow the channel. If you didn't like it, you cannot click the thumbs down anymore. So just you might as well click thumbs up. And yeah, that's it for today. See you in the next video. Bye bye.